Welcome to our first episode of the year for Cart to Cart. And this episode, we're going to be talking about our predictions or just in general what we think is going to happen in e-commerce over the next year. I think a big theme is trust, but we'll deep dive into that. In this episode, we're also going to take a little intermission to get to know one of our hosts. And this week it's Diana. So we'll deep dive into her a little bit.
So we're back and we're going to dive right into it. I guess why delay, right? Last time we were talking about all of the releases that Shopify had made for the AI, the Renaissance, and this kind of thing. But now the topic is we're going to be talking about the predictions, what we think, some hot takes for 2026, and what we predict that Shopify might be coming out with. I think that we all use AI for who actually, I'm curious. Who has replaced Google or any other type of search engine with some type of AI for their daily driver for search?
It varies on the subject, like it really, I do use it a lot. I use GPT, but if I'm doing more in-depth research or I'm like, I need you to be very specific. I don't need just like a quick answer, then I'll use it. But I'm still using Google and like the summaries are great, and then I can dig in further if I want. So that's kind of like, it's a blend for me.
Definitely for syntax, like code and stuff, I'll just go to like Claude. But for anything, it's kind of like a good jumping off point, but I don't really trust facts coming from it.
I don't either. That's what I was going to say is like, because I'll see the answer at the top of a Google search, the AI answer. And sometimes when I know the answer, I know that you see the mistakes in there. So I don't know. No, I haven't replaced it for search yet.
So
in my life.
The reason I'm asking that question is because that's what I think my big prediction, or I don't know if it's necessarily a prediction or if I want it to be a manifestation of where I hope they focus, is search. Because for quite a while, I've found that the on-site search in Shopify stores really needs some attention. We know that it doesn't properly index meta fields. It doesn't properly index sections or blocks. So I'm really hoping that they pay attention to this, because I think going forward, a lot of shoppers are going to expect to just be able to type in best gifts for grandma or, looking for comfortable shoes. And that is really difficult to do just with filters and tags. So I think that the queries are going to be longer and more natural, in the same way that someone would be searching, long form questions in Google or in AI tools. And I think they need to bring that experience directly on site to stores, because that is going to be a totally new shopping experience. And the thing that's tricky about it is that even if you're using an app, a search app, something like that, it needs to be built in the core of Shopify. I don't think it can be really handled by a third party add-on. I think Shopify really needs to address it directly. So that would be
that's top of my wish list for Christmas. I don't know. Now for 2026. I agree. I'm working with a client right now, and it was the first time I got to make metafield pages, like the auto pages for metafields, and it's awesome feature just to make like a template. This is a skincare brand, and they wanted all of their like key ingredients to have a page, and it all looks the same. And it has an image and it has a description, but there's no way to search for that page. And I can't even like figure out a hack, really an easy hack to get there. I've just kind of put it to the side for now to figure out how to do that. But that is probably the biggest complaint I get from clients, is like not being able to search metafields and certain pieces of content throughout the site.
Yeah, it just is so incredibly limiting. It's like, imagine if you could only search all of the websites that are indexed on Google by tags that the website owners had put there themselves.
Yeah. Also, another thing on the storefront is that, and I haven't seen how this is in Horizon, and maybe if this is different in newer themes, but like in Dawn and in the Whisk theme that I have, which was built in the Dawn era, the search page, like the results on the search page, are way different than the results in predictive search. Like predictive search is a little smarter, a little, that also can be really confusing and annoying to work around. I don't know if there is. Does anybody know? Is there like do people just not use the search page normal search form anymore? Or I don't know.
I think people do. It's just that they don't get great results from it. Like I know from doing type audits, which I previously did before, a lot of people, some people build out these beautiful mega menus and they have all these categories and bestsellers and clearance and all these targeted collections, and that's wonderful. But if you can't surface those really easily in your search, then you're really, missing out on a lot of people that are just going to go straight to the search bar and not even look at those menus.
Yeah. Another thing I was thinking about, I saw some chatter on Twitter/X talking about the shopping experience moving to search in AI. And I was wondering what you all think about that. I know, like, Trudy, you had a really great example of doing like price comparison in ChatGPT with search. Like, I can totally see that as being really powerful. Do you all think that's going to take away from the storefront experience, and that the storefront experience is going to be minimized, and that people are going to do more shopping in AI agents?
Yeah, I mean, I have thoughts because like my prediction's all about like trust and trust building in 2026. And I used to work in security, and like the concept of like trust but verify was like, I don't know, it resonated with me in terms of like, obviously an unrelated concept to e-commerce, but just the words of like building trust between customers and brands, and knowing that there will be a requirement to do more verification, right? So like what that means for me is like verify that the brand is who they are, like who they say they are, verify that, what you're seeing is not AI, what you're seeing is real and it's going to solve, your problem, or it's going to, give you what you want. And I think that piece for me is like where I'm like iffy on buying directly through GPT, where like, how can you build trust? Since we all just started this conversation with the fact that we said, well, we don't trust, some data that we get from GPT. And I'm like, would you feel the same way about products that you're getting from GPT? And then obviously the whole conversation around, are they, going to say that one brand is better than the other because, one of them's paying for ads or whatever? Like, there's all these really interesting problems that I think once they're solved, or like there's ways to gain trust and validate it, right? And people are talking about it in a positive light, it's going to be awesome. But I just yesterday read about the whole Amazon Buy For Me thing, and I don't know if you're all familiar with it, but it's like,
tell us about it more. I just read.
I didn't even read, I didn't see the article until I just saw a post on Reddit in the Shopify subreddit, right? And it was like, I did not give consent for my products to be sold with the Buy For Me. And then the chargeback rate for this particular customer was like 28% on those orders. And so like, knowing that chargebacks with these kinds of programs are super high, now you're having trust on the other side, with the merchant side of like, who's finding my stuff, who's buying it. I'm worried about credit card risk, of chargebacks. And it's just, I don't know, we're in this weird world of like, who has my data and why, and I don't trust anyone until they prove that they're, worth the trust, right? So anyway, all that's to say is like, that's kind of where I think like there's concepts of building trust, but what does that mean for brands? I think that's why maybe live shopping is something that they're like, okay, we're in front of a brand, or like in front of a customer, here's what it looks like, here's, like concepts about it that aren't just like an image that could have been generated by AI. So I think those are like where I'm seeing things for 2026, and like whether they, we find a way to get through the tough distrust period of AI is like, I'm excited to watch. I have my popcorn. Yeah. I'm ready to watch.
That's what I was going to talk about, is I think there's the trend towards more analog. Like even just all around in consumers and Gen Z, like even reading about people's hobbies, like people want to make pottery and people want to have, I think, human connection again too. And how that like bleeds into commerce. Like I work with a designer who was telling me that she had a client come to her and say, can you redesign the illustrations on my site? Because they look like they were made from AI and I want them to look more like hand-drawn and natural. They weren't made from AI, but the merchant was worried that they looked too much like AI, and she wanted to get away from that. And I was like, wow, that's really interesting.
I saw an artist like at a store here in local to Ottawa, Shopify store actually, I think it's called Maker House, and there was an artist there where like it was their style of art, but it looked so much like AI. And me and my partner were like, oh man, like it must be hard, right? Because you've designed and styled your art in this way, and yet it's so close to AI that that's the first thing that someone will think about and go, well, this isn't worth it. And I'm like, I feel bad for, I mean, that's obviously the detriment of art, right? With like that they're having from AI. And yeah, it's just like, no, let's not go that way.
Yeah. I've heard the same thing from grammar nerds that really like using M dashes.
Oh, I love M dashes. Yeah, Trudy, what's your, what do you see for 2026?
Well, I went in a different direction because I saw like a post about Zara's virtual try-on, which I think is funny because Zara has chronically had like, it's so funny as like a brand because their images are never
they're hilarious though,
clothes, or not wearing their clothes in a way where you can like see what even the clothing are. Their app has been janky and half broken, I don't know, at least for the last 5 years. Like it's whether it even works anytime I go on it, and it's for some reason like the only clothing line app I've ever had on my phone, really, in the regular. But I think it's just because it's so funny and it's just constantly being talked about. So I saw that they had a virtual try-on, so I got on and tried it out, and it was actually pretty good. Like, I mean, I have thoughts on it. I don't know what the future is really, so it's kind of like a vague prediction because it makes you take a picture of your face and then a full body picture, which I just did on the spot, like no makeup. I just like whatever, threw it on, and it did a pretty good rendition, and then I could just pick clothes.
That's cool.
And like, try them
on.
Is
it like the Clueless closet? Do you know what I'm talking about? Like the Clueless? Like I feel like that's what we've all wanted for 30 years.
Yes. It's very similar to that in a sense. But the thing that is like obvious to me is like, well, it's not my exact measurements. It's probably not exactly how the clothes are going to fall, you know, like the fabric or like whatever. Mm. So, because I think that people have been trying to do like virtual try-ons for so long, but without AI, it's just very high intensity of like having to have a lot of actual data about a person. Where it's cool because you can kind of see, but it's not going to be exactly how it is. And I don't know if that's like a positive or negative. Like the positive being that like it might drive sales in the sense like, oh, I do look good in that. Or like it gives me a little bit more like understanding, especially if I'm like a non-standard size, like I'm super short or a bit bigger or something. The models aren't wearing something close to it, so I can see closer to what I look like. But then if too much AI gets involved, like if they're doing like AI images of the photo and then AI like renditions, maybe the actual product is going to be far enough off that it's going to make people unhappy when they get the actual product. Because then, so I don't know if Zara's using this, but I did go down the rabbit hole of the Google Virtual Try-On API, which
that's cool.
The Google Virtual Try-On was launched in 2023, but the API made available to developers was just launched in like December/January.
Interesting.
And so I watched a couple videos of how to do that, and it's like pretty easy as an API, or like I watched some like YouTube videos about people doing it. But in watching the videos, it's like, if it's a really complicated logo on a t-shirt, like sometimes the AI will just modify it a little bit. Like it's not exactly the same logo.
Oh.
So it's like pretty good, but like it's not exact. And so is that going to be good enough? You know what I mean? Like, is the benefits going to outweigh the negatives? Are people going to be upset that it's not going to fit them exactly like how the AI predicted it was going to fit them?
I feel like there's like another thing that I was reading about was that a lot of retailers are minimizing their return policy and making making returns harder. But I think like that's something I would only try if there was a generous return policy, because you don't know what you're going to get, you know?
Yeah, because I saw a TikTok, and I don't know if this is related to AI, but basically this person bought a sweater that was like $250, like not like super cheap or anything, from like a reputable store, although I don't recall exactly which one. And it was like the collar was different on what they got, like this. And they were upset because they had a very specific desire for a very specific thing. And the customer service essentially told them like, well, it's close enough.
Was it an AI customer service?
Yeah.
Well, I think you look great in it. It's like okay, relax.
Yeah. And it's like, so it's like, if you get like that, like the image isn't exactly correct, and then when you do the AI try on, it's like even slightly more different, then the actual product you get is going to be different enough to make people upset.
Yeah, I have a follow-up question for you, Trudy, because you played around with it. So Zara, I know they are renowned for, if something's on the runway, they have it in stores the next day. So I'm curious, was it the entire catalog of clothes that you could try on, or was it only specific items?
Because I don't know specifically if they're using the Google Virtual Try-On, but with the Google Virtual Try-On, you literally just have to put like an image of yourself and then an image of the clothes. Wow. And it just does it. So
unlike, remember when we had to create like 3D models and it was to, take pictures of every angle. So it's not like, it's a lot.
No, which is why I'm like, I don't even have to look into it that deeply to know that it's not going to be exact, right? Because they're not like,
even like a flat lay of the like a sweater that's like a flat lay picture, and then it'll figure it out.
Yeah. And it was like pretty good. And I think it's fun to see. Like if you're trying on an outfit, it is like the Clueless closet type of thing. But I wonder if it's going to cause more problems than it solves, like with returns and stuff.
The way I see it, what we already talked about was like Brenda, I look at the return policy and go, okay, cool. Like what tools are you giving me to build me confidence that this thing's going to fit me, that it's the right size, so on and so forth. And so like if a site has a fun try-on experience, a great return policy, and reviews that actually give me someone's size, like weight, height, size, and you had a system that's like, hey, like we're using all this information, like there's so many of those like true match kind of things for shoe sizes and so on and so forth. I'm like, then the experience leads to like, okay, cool. Every piece of technology is like additive and like we're getting really close to 100% despite the, negative or like the negative impacts of some of that technology or the inaccuracies. Great. Give me that experience and I'm happy with it. But like I just don't think like it's going to result in like a positive experience if it's piecemeal or stingy on the return policy, right? Like, and then maybe eventually you're like, okay, cool. Confidence is high. Returns are lowering because we've given somebody all this stuff. Returns cost us a ton of money. Let's optimize it. Fine. But like prove that like someone's happy with like that experience before like taking stuff away. Anyway,
That's true. The other thing that was interesting that I noted is that, so the Google Try-On experience has been around for 2 years roughly. And apparently it rolled out, and this again was AI information. Like I don't think I got any verified information on this, but so the AI summary was like, it rolled out in 2023 with Everlane, H&M, and a few other stores that they tried to like use it with. And I went to those stores and there was no virtual try-on. And then I also downloaded the apps and there was also no virtual try-on there. So I'm like, is that true? Because it was just an AI summary and I couldn't find any other information.
I love that you did that.
Or did they do it and decide that it wasn't worth it? I don't know. I couldn't actually find.
You're on an Android, right?
AI.
Are you on an Android?
Yeah.
I wonder if
we need to know. Yeah. Someone in the comments,
please
let us know.
Please let us know if we're
give us if that is a failed experiment or what.
Yeah. So I don't know. Then I looked at a few other ones. So there's like a few apps that will integrate into maybe Shopify, but like are apps that stores can use to like do a virtual try-on, but they're AR, not like AI. And then there's one app called Doji, which I don't have an iPhone and they only have an iPhone app, where it's like it's a virtual try-on, but they pull in brands specifically. So it's like they have brands that you can try on and they're all high, like Mooey and the Row and stuff. Like it's very high end. And then you can purchase, I guess it's like a place. Yes. It's like a marketplace, but it's like they're probably making like affiliate money or something off of it. It's the guess. But I couldn't try it out because I have an Android.
Well, we'll check it out afterwards. I'll play with it.
But I do look forward to seeing, now that the Google Try-On API is out there, what people are going to do with it and how that goes. So I guess it's less of a prediction and more of a interesting what will happen in the future.
I don't know if it's a prediction as well, but imagine a future where you essentially have your own little avatar that has your dimensions, currently what your hair looks like, everything. And you can even create them for all your different family members. So if you're shopping for friends or family, and then you can go and say, oh, I'm looking for a blue skirt. And it will give you options and allow,
Yeah. And the thing with that is that people have been trying to do that for a long time, but it requires so much input of getting your actual dimensions.
And
like
accuracy
that,
there.
I think is the thing. Like, I think I've seen people do it with like I don't know, video game consoles where like maybe Google or not Nintendo Wii. I don't know anything about video games, but like, you know, those like things that can see your body.
What if it's like,
or go into a place and get a scan, but they've never really taken off because it's too like high input.
What if it's just like in a way that like those shade matchers work where like you say, oh, I'm a size this in this brand's jeans. And then it understands like your measurements from there. And then it can, and then it can like, something like that. Cause also like, I don't want to measure myself.
And that's the thing. I'm that's why I'm saying I'm like, you build something like that where it's taking reviews into account, like 5-star reviews from someone who's this size, this whatever. And like that, I think AI would do an amazing job at, right?
That's true. Something like Makeup Alley, but for clothing.
Exactly. And taking it back to search as well, think about if it were smart enough to realize that if you typed in, I'm looking for a flowy blue skirt, it would know to look for silk, satin, without you actually having to put in those types of flowy materials. It's just able to infer.
Now for our intermission, we're going to get to know Diana a little bit more. Let's talk to Diana. Diana, do you want to just like kind of start off and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. I'm actually very curious, like what sleuthing you did, Brenda, because I'm like, where's she gonna go with this? Where's she gonna go? But yeah, like a couple of us have talked about building a podcast forever, and of course, like I'm currently running Downpay as like CEO and co-founder and everything, and so it's like it's a lot, but people always find it interesting how I ended up here. It was not linear at all. We just started, just for the audience, we started this pre-recording with me being like, where's that hum coming from? There's an audio hum. And then I started explaining like microphone patterns and anyways. So I actually was an audio engineer for many years, like back in the day and stuff. And it took me a long time to get into actual tech and, you know, get into e-commerce and stuff. So I've had quite a winding journey, and I'm happy to, you know, dig into that throughout this little interview. But, you know, that's kind of like, my focus right now is working on Downpay, and it's taking up all my time, and it's great. It's growing and it's awesome. But outside of that, I am still an artist at heart. I do a lot of painting, sculpting, crafting, you name it. I love that. And, you know, that's like just one of my deep passions that I've had since I was a kid. And then along with that, I'm a huge gamer. So like I mentioned, like I worked at EB Games for like 5 years. It was my first retail job. And it was like the best job a gamer could get ever. Like I've been gaming since I moved to Canada from Romania in 1996, I think. And played Prince of Persia on DOS and stuff. So I've been at it for a very long time. So yeah, that's just kind of like a very high level overview, but curious to share more.
Because we talked at Editions about Romania, because I had just come back from Romania like a week before Editions, and I actually went to the town where you're from. Right? Yeah.
Central of Europe,
Romania.
or maybe not, you know, there's Switzerland, but like very popular place to go. They have this like the Hollywood sign that doesn't say Hollywood but says Brashov. So it's like it's become quite a tourist city now.
Cool. So like I love hearing about career transitioners, like career changers. Like how did you get from audio engineering into tech?
Yeah, I mean I worked as an audio engineer at CTV, which is like the Canadian television company. There's like a couple locations here, and it was right out of film school. So I graduated out of film school, got my first job, and I'm like, oh my goodness, like it's actually in the field that I studied. Like that never happens, right? Like I would say I can count on one hand how many people actually are still working in film, out of film. Like it's hard, right? And also we're not in Hollywood. Hollywood keeps coming up. Anyway. And, worked there for a while. And it was 6 p.m. to 3 a.m. shifts. It was like, do what you can to be part of this, you know, industry and experience. And I did some stuff on like, what's it called? Projects on the side, like worked on a documentary and some other commercials and stuff. And so it was like living it up, but I hated the schedule, right? Like it was brutal. And so, I think like my manager at the time was like, we're probably going to lose her if we don't figure out like, you know, how to give her something like more full time. And I got offered a position to join the IT team that built the sound recording rooms. Right. So didn't know, I hadn't like looked into IT at all my whole career. I was like, But I really wanted to just have a more stable schedule. I really wanted to like move closer. I was like driving 100 kilometers a day, and it was all through Toronto, like Scarborough, all this like area around the GTA in Canada. And so I took the role and I started learning everything. I started building the sound rooms and like working on like Mac IT. And it was super fun and different, and did that for a couple of years at CTV until one of my mentors ended up leaving because she found something else. And she was like, hey, no, you're not, like, you know, you want to keep growing. You're not super happy here. Have you heard of Shopify? They're hiring an IT person. You should look into it. And so I did, and ended up just jumping into Shopify and really like learning tech and figuring that out. So I led a couple of the IT teams there, built it out, like opened the Waterloo office back in the day, and like all like the second Toronto office back in the day, and like it's just crazy. Like I think this was 2015, and
the golden years,
the beautiful. It was
tech.
like I think I was employee number 1,000 something, so it was very early and lovely. And then from there, like I think this was just how it was, where it was a jungle gym of like, what do you enjoy doing? You tackle a problem and then you get an opportunity. And so I kind of jumped around Shopify, was in security for a while, and then slowly started getting projects in security that worked on product, right? So there was like the login experience for merchants. Like I was part of the whole like merge of accounts, right? Where there wasn't one account for every login. And so that was like a huge undertaking with like a couple teams, including the security team. And so that kind of got me into the realm of product management. And that's really where I like thrived. I was like, oh, like I love being the person who really understands the big picture. And like, then we rally and like build things as we go. And so then I worked on, like I said earlier, like a bit of search for a while, orders, and then worked in subscriptions land for like during like checkout code red. And then I pitched doing partial payments for like things outside of subscriptions, where I was like, hey, it's the pandemic. There's a lot of canceled orders because things are super, super delayed and customers are getting nervous. And so they cancel orders and merchants are panicking. And so I pitched like offering deposits, deferring payment, like doing these things. And so my team and I like built the API that I ended up using to build Downpay, which like was not in the cards.
That's great.
Yeah, like I left Shopify to go into like a different company unrelated to ecom. And then I came back and launched my own company because I had it with that other company. So it was not planned. It was just like streak of luck that I happened to meet an amazing co-founder who was like, I'm taking a career break. Like, you have an idea? Like, let's do this thing. And so it kind of just like crazy roller coaster ended me up here. So yeah, it's very hard to describe why everything happened the way it did, but I'm very glad because I wouldn't have met you folks. So
I have a non-tech question for you.
Okay.
Diana. I know that you are an avid gardener. What is your favorite plant?
My goodness, what a question. Let me think. Yeah, so for everyone else, like Anne and I met, where did we meet? I think Editions 2 years ago. And we literally were obsessed with talking about gardening and plants. So I love nasturtiums. So those one, like if people don't know what they are, they're like little pretty flowers that come in different colors, but the whole plant, like the whole flower and the leaves are edible. So you sometimes see them at like really high-end restaurants. The leaves are they almost look like little lily pads. And so you can just grow them, like they just spread all over your garden. You have to plant them every year in like colder climates like us, but they're these beautiful, colorful flowers that are edible and like just really unique looking. So I think that one is my favorite. Yeah. Yeah,
that's great. Beautiful and practical.
Those are like the things that need to happen for me to be happy with like buying stuff. You know, I'm like, it has to look good and it has to be useful.
Can I have one more question for you, Dana, if that's okay? Since this is the predictions episode, what are, let's say, 2 predictions that you have for your career going forward?
Oh my goodness. It's so funny because like I've been at this, like building this company for like three years now, and I couldn't have predicted any of the years, like how they panned out, what's going on, you know, whatever. But I think like at least like what I hope happens is like big parts of my job that I really love is like I love design. So I do a lot of the design myself and like build that out. And I just love writing documentation and like getting my brain on paper and like doing demos and doing recordings and stuff, I feel like I'm a solutions architect, like in my core. And so somebody comes to me with something unique and I'm like, yeah, I can make that happen. So I want more time to do those things and really that to be my focus. And then I'd love to have more time to even like play around and build my own like little side hustle, like for my art. So just like a balance of things, right now it's very much like heads down, do everything, get it going and whatnot. But I'm, hoping for more balance later, just to like experiment with other things. I think I love the 0 to 1 for any project that I work on. And so I want more of that in my life for the next like couple years.
Here's a random question that I think I want to know from everybody when we get there. Is you said you worked at EB Games. Yep. Any other retail brick and mortar that you've worked at?
No.
Thank you for sharing. It's so nice to get to know more about you.
It's always fun.
Dig into the history of it.
I'm excited for the, the next rounds as well. Get to know you all in depth.
I think we'll still continue to see, Diana, your comment on trust. I think we'll still also see a lot of user-generated content, because until we get to that point where we can see it exactly on somewhat like our own shape, we'll rely on seeing it on other people. Absolutely. And seeing that in real life. It's again bringing in that real life, like Brenda, what you were saying. So I think that a lot of stores that I've found, they don't seem, I don't know whether it's a matter of it's difficult for a small business to get that user generated content, and you also have to moderate it as well. So I'm curious to see if we'll see more of that in 2026 though.
I've been wondering about if brands just curate it too much, that it ruins the trust in it.
That was what I was going to say.
The best shopping experience I think I have is on Nuuly, which is a clothing rental app. And I think maybe because it's not brand specific and they're not really selling, there's not that, the reviews are so honest. There's so much engagement. People put in their photos, and it's also like, it's a big risk. Like I have 6 items I can rent every month. And if one doesn't fit, it's just like a waste of that money. You know what I mean? So like, there's like a high intent to want to like get the right size and get the right fit. And so it's the community in there, like, and the filters, like I can filter down to my weight, my bra size, my height, and see other people who have reviewed like that. And and they have like a great like wish list experience. That app is just like, I continue to rent from there mostly, I think, because it is such a like really delightful shopping experience.
And that also is very much like Makeup Alley, where you can do like your age, your like eye color, like every single dimension of yourself, and then find reviews from people with
that's the thing. It's like real data, right? Like it's why we use Reddit.
I hated Reddit like 10 years ago. I thought it was like a trash fire, and now it's like the most trusted resource. I also
like, once again, in the comment of UGC, it's like there's a lot, like you can now see when it's paid for comments and advertising, and you're like, oh, come on, don't ruin the one good thing. I can't believe I said that about Reddit, but don't ruin the one good thing about this platform. It's like, it's human beings being like, no, like actually this is my take, I used it for 3 months, blah blah blah, whatever. And I'm like, thank you for writing this. And but I'm finding that kind of stuff less and less, where it's we're smart human beings, we can parse through if it's an ad or not. And just like UGC, a lot of it's too, like, you can tell it's paid for. So like that's got to change somehow to be more authentic, right?
I know. My obsession now is just the reviews, like not like UGC, but reviews with images, because then you just like see it.
And that's why I'm like, live shopping, like, yes, you can still fake that. You can do a lot of things, but I'm like, maybe there is something to be said for that, where you're seeing real things before you buy it. You're, like someone's wearing it, variety of people are wearing it. Or whatever the product may be, to give you a little bit more confidence before committing, right? So I don't know, but it's gonna be an interesting year.
Yeah, with the rise of influencer culture as well, I think it's difficult sometimes where what's the incentive for the average user to be submitting these reviews and giving the company all of this? Yeah. They're basically doing work, quote unquote, for free, and they see that other people can be paid for it.
True.
So why are they going to spend their time? If it's a small business, it definitely makes sense. But for a large corporation, it doesn't feel like you're really, what's the point? Especially when they just pay other people to do it for them.
I also worry we're like in review fatigue, and just like feedback fatigue, like consumers exhausted. It used to be so hard to get like clients to want to ask their like customers for feedback, and then now it's like it's almost too much. I don't know. I'm fatigued as a consumer.
Yeah, me too.
So I have a question. Based on the segue from small businesses, do you think we'll see more or less small businesses coming onto Shopify in 2026?
Great question.
I think we'll see more small businesses that are kind of drop shipping scams.
Indeed. Continues to grow.
Yeah. Just the easier they make it to make all this stuff, the more people are going to just hop on it and like hope to make a quick buck.
I hope that just talking about people picking up like tactile hobbies, like those are the types of things that people like to turn into small businesses and small shops. I don't know if layoffs and things continue, that's often when people turn to small businesses, but those aren't necessarily the small businesses that always thrive and last. It might be churn. I don't know. I think that's such a great question to contemplate.
Yeah, I will say my partner's a woodworker in his part-time, like in, like hobbyist. And I built him like a Shopify store because he's like, this year, like I really want to like try to sell my first piece. And it's like homewares and everything, which is great. Cause I'm like, I know that area really well. And so it's, he started, but of course, like, Etsy's a tough sell with the high fees, right? Especially as you're starting off. So like I do still see like Shopify being kind of a potentially good avenue. It's still expensive if you're not getting any sales. So like I'm torn as well, but I do think that it's becoming more of an avenue because the marketplaces are just so expensive, or like, starting on Amazon, you're worried that someone's going to steal your IP. So there is that. And I think there's still going to be continued passion for starting small businesses. And I agree with you on layoffs and stuff. It's like, there's frustration with that. And what comes out of that is I want to just trust myself that I can build something and not rely on someone else to give me a job. And I think that's really powerful too. So like those kinds of currents, I think are still going to bring good businesses to Shopify, but it's just a hard market, I think. So it's like, maybe the volume's going to be lower just because of that.
And then there's, I think, like Squarespace. Squarespace is a pretty big competitor for like the small.
Yeah, I think so.
Business market too. Yeah. Do you think that like Shopify is becoming so feature rich? Do you think that it's becoming more intimidating to starters?
Well, because you bring up Squarespace, and I know a lot of people, it's like they'll already be on Squarespace because they just need a site, and then they'll start thinking about getting into e-commerce, and they're like, well, I'm already on Squarespace. And because they don't need so many features, they just go with that. So I don't think Squarespace is going to like grab a lot of those customers.
Yeah, I think we've also seen in the last 2 years or so, maybe even before that, the Shopify is moving more towards the enterprise space and creating a lot more like wanting to work with big brands and companies, as opposed to this. I think there's still a space for small businesses for sure, but I am curious to see whether, maybe not for 2026, but in the next couple of years, if we will see a competitor that comes out that is specifically focusing on small businesses and selling. Because I think still Squarespace, while they do have e-commerce features, that's not their main selling point, I don't think, but maybe I'm wrong about that.
It's always been the way I convince people to go with Shopify over Squarespace or WooCommerce or whatever is I say, like, WooCommerce is part of WordPress. WordPress is a blog platform. It's a content platform. That's what it's meant for. Like, if your primary purpose is information and blogging and you want to sell some things on the side, like that might be the right choice for you. Squarespace is supposed to be like a easy way to just generate a site, but Shopify is meant for shopping. Like, I think I see mostly, I think when you get even the small businesses on Shopify, they're like serious businesses. Like, once you get to, if you're brick and mortar and when you really want to make money and you want to be able to scale, like, you have to go to Shopify. Like, if you want to just stay small, but like to scale it all, it has to be Shopify.
All right. Well, that is it for us. I'm really glad that we were able to talk about our predictions for 2026 and also get to know Diana a bit more. That was wonderful. And looking forward to hanging out with everybody for the next episode. Thanks so much.
Sweet.
Thanks.
And then heart
Oh
to
yeah,
heart.
my weird
Right, you
octagonal
forgot that.
heart.
Decided how to
Anyway.
do